Mervyn King was quite upbeat in his last inflation report yesterday, Wednesday, the 15th of May, as he hands over to Mark Carney. The Bank of England have made some quite positive projections for the future. And that made me think, are we near to the end of the credit crisis at last? The end of the credit crisis will come when the US has gone through a rebalancing exercise and is no longer blighted with debt problems. The US consumer, the families, have already paid down borrowings equivalent to around 17% of GDP. So total US consumer borrowing is around 80% of GDP now, which is sustainable. US government borrowing is going northward up towards 100% of GDP. But with the sequestration this year cutting in, and the US government increasing taxes and reducing public expenditure, the difference between what it gets in and what it spends is going to shrink. If that gets down to a 4% per annum, about 4% of GDP, which it might do in 2014, and if US GDP is growing by a nominal amount of around 4% per annum, then debt to GDP won't be going up anymore. And that probably will mark the end of the credit crisis. If that's right, you've got to watch out for a couple of things. Firstly, interest rates will begin to move back to something that's more normal, which is probably base rates, at least in this country, of around 4 to 4.5%. That would put upward pressure on mortgage rates. So if you've got any youngsters that are thinking about taking on mortgages, or if you're doing it yourself, think about going very long term on interest rates at the moment, because this may be the last time in a lifetime to fix out at very low rates. And if you're holding bonds, beware. We are not keen on long duration bonds at the moment because they look like a bubble, and ironically this is a bubble that could burst as the economy improves.